Hi everyone, I'm Taylor. I'm a Florida boy, born and raised there. I love Florida, or at least I used to. I now live in Malaysia. Would I ever return to Florida? Stay tuned to find out. I'm an American expat living in Malaysia, and I like to share my life and travels with you. Today I'm going to talk about living in Malaysia versus living in Florida. Which would I prefer? I'll get into the nitty-gritty, and you can decide for yourself which you think you would prefer. I've been in Malaysia for 8 years now, 7 years in Penang, and 1 year in Kuala Lumpur, which is a big city, so that's a huge change. I think Penang is probably more like the Florida that I grew up in. One thing I was surprised about when I moved here was how little adjustment it took. Almost everyone speaks English, which is a real plus for me. And the infrastructure is first world. There's almost nothing that you can get in the United States that you can't get here. Is there anything I miss about Florida and the USA? Well, honestly, very little. I'll talk a little bit about it, and they're small things for the most part. I really would love it if the grocery stores here had huge parking lots like they do in the US. Oh my gosh, it's so easy to just zoom in there, go right in the store, come back and get in your car and go home. Here it's a little more trouble because honestly, at least in Kuala Lumpur, and Penang for that matter, most of the grocery stores are in shopping malls, so you have to park in this huge car park and pay for it too. So that's one tiny thing I like better about the US. Now I'll talk about housing. As many of you know, I have a condo in Clearwater, Florida, which I rent out now. I bought it as an investment and thinking that, I just will have a place to go to if I ever need to go back to the US. Now I'm thinking more and more that I don't need to keep it because I really don't think I'm going to go back. Now you might think, you never know, something might happen. Well, honestly, I don't think I could afford to go back. That's the main thing. I live mostly on Social Security, and I get the income from the apartment, so if I went back to live there, I wouldn't get that income anymore, so that would lower my income. But the apartment is totally paid for, I have no mortgage, and yet it still would be too expensive for me to live in, if you can believe that. I only pay $400 US a month for my apartment here, and it's way nicer than my apartment in Clearwater. I'll show you some pictures so you can decide for yourself. Now, certainly my apartment in Clearwater is lovely, but this one's bigger, 2 floors, on the 28th floor having gorgeous views of the city. I think the only thing I like better about my apartment in Clearwater than my apartment here is that it has a dishwasher and an ice maker. I love my ice. So why is it I couldn't afford to live in my condo that's all paid for? Basically, the condo fee or maintenance is as much as I pay in rent here. So that would be like paying rent there. Plus there's taxes on the apartment. Now the taxes would go down if I was living there. I pay more taxes because it's a rental unit, which makes sense. And don't get me started on the insurance costs in Florida. They've skyrocketed. In the 4 or 5 years that I've owned the apartment, my insurance has doubled. And from what I hear, there's very little chance I would ever collect any money if I had a problem. That's pretty sad, but you gotta have the insurance, that's for sure. So it just makes more sense to stay in Malaysia. It's cheaper, and my place is nicer. Well, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Now let's talk a little bit about transportation. Now, I really want a car if I live in the US. I'm not sure I could afford one though. Well, actually, I'm sure I couldn't. Now, I have a motorcycle here in Malaysia, which is pretty scary sometimes, and as I get older, I'm probably not going to be able to use it. But for now, it's still good, and I still get around just fine. And that costs me practically nothing. Now, I could have a motorcycle in the US too, and I did for when I was traveling back and forth. But now I've sold it, and I think I would feel more comfortable with a car, but a car I can't afford. Now, my condo in Florida is walking distance to shopping. There's a Walmart like 2 blocks away. There's grocery stores across the street. There's all kinds of restaurants and shops. So that wouldn't be a big issue. But it's pretty isolated as far as where my friends live and my family lives, and so I would need some way to get to see them. Here in Malaysia, even if I didn't have my motorcycle and just use Grab, which is the Uber here, it would be pretty cheap. The costs are very, very low compared to the US. For instance, I can go from my apartment to Center City, or what they call KLCC, for less than $5. So that's not bad at all. Also, if you want to go visit other countries while you're here, the air travel is very reasonable, even less than probably traveling between states in the US. That's 2 things, the housing and transportation. Transportation's not a deal breaker, but I still think it's better here. Plus, KL has a very, very good rapid transit subway system, which I've done a video on if you want to look at that. The general cost of living in Malaysia is way less than Florida. And Florida's not really an expensive state to live in. I mean, your costs of goods are going to be lower than some other places. But prices are going up like everywhere, and I notice it here too. So I'm thinking food and dining out going to be a little bit cheaper here, but that's not going to be a major difference. One thing I meant to talk about right at the beginning is the weather. Well, the weather is very similar between Florida and Malaysia. The only thing I like about Florida's weather that's better than Malaysia is that it does have a few cooler months in the wintertime. Here, there's no winter at all, and it's pretty much the same temperature all year long. But that said, it's so much hotter in Florida in the summer. Oh my gosh. It rarely gets above 90 degrees here in Malaysia. And actually, the average temperature year-round is a fairly pleasant 86 degrees. And of course, everything's air-conditioned. Another plus is that there's no hurricanes here, so there's no fear of that. Well, that's becoming a huge problem in Florida. The third thing I want to talk about is the difference in medical care. Now, I'm over 65, so I have Medicare in the US, which would cover most everything, I suppose. I'm not really familiar with it. But I think medical care is superior here in Malaysia, believe it or not. Anyway, most of the doctors are trained in the US as it is. And they all speak English, so it's really no problem at all. And the costs are astronomically cheaper here. My goodness, I've talked about this before, but I have a slight heart problem, totally taken care of with medication. But I see the head of cardiologists at the hospital here twice a year for a complete checkup. And they do blood work, electrocardiogram, echocardiogram, and a checkup by the doctor. So twice a year I spend a whole morning there at the hospital. And you know what it cost me? About $200. And that's amazing. It would cost you thousands in the US, although I guess Medicare would pay for it. But I don't know, it's just really nice. Another really unusual thing about medicine here too is when you go in for your checkup, they draw your blood first thing, and then you have a couple hours where you could go get some breakfast or something, but then by the time you see the doctor, they already have all the results of the blood test. That would never happen in the US. It takes days usually, unless I'm behind the times on that, which I could be. So medicine is better here. Another reason I think I'll stay in Malaysia. Now, I haven't been back to the US in 5 years, mostly because I don't want to. It's a long, long flight, so that's a big part of it, and I find that very uncomfortable. It takes me about 30 hours to get back. Seeing the news is how tragic it is, the homeless problem in the US. I mean, my goodness, they're just like homeless cities. Now, I have talked about this before on my channel because I just don't see homelessness here in Malaysia. But I was informed that it does exist. But I can assure you, it is not on the level that it is in the United States. And it's not just mentally ill people who are homeless, it's just people who are having bad luck or can't find a job. And that's just awful in a country that's so wealthy, if you ask me. Now I'll talk about safety. I have never lived anywhere where I feel safer than Malaysia. I can tell you that. The people are generally kind and caring and really not out to hurt you. Now, of course, there's crime here like anywhere, but it's pretty petty for the most part. And I can assure you, you have very, very, very slim chance of getting shot because guns aren't allowed here. There's a few, but certainly not like the United States. It's just frightening, the gun violence in the United States now. Even when I lived there before I moved here, I lived in Washington, D.C. area, and I could hear gunshots outside my window, not a regular basis, but sure, once in a while. So I didn't even feel like I could walk to the 7-Eleven at night. Pretty scary. I feel like I could walk almost anywhere here in Kuala Lumpur at night. By myself, no problem. So the U.S. really needs to take care of that gun problem, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, do you? Now I'll talk a little bit about politics. What do I think about politics in the U.S.? I think it's a mess. I honestly do. I remember when I was younger, everyone used to work together, and they weren't just at each other's throats. Now that's terrible. Now, I have to say, politics aren't perfect here in Malaysia, that's for sure. There's a fair share of issues with it. But in general, it's better. And I have to say, the government sometimes does pit one race against another. I don't know, maybe that's just worldwide. It's sad, but true. Now for listing all the reasons that I think Malaysia is a better life for me, I'm trying to think about what would ever happen to make me want to return or have to return to the U.S. Number one would be if they changed my visa status and I had to go, and that would be a very, very sad day indeed. Other than that, I can't think of a single reason why I would rather live in the U.S. Sure, I have friends there, but the way the world is now, you stay in constant touch. And my family comes to visit me here occasionally. Not a lot, but my sister's coming next month, and I'm really looking forward to that. So the answer to the question, would I ever return to the U.S., is not if I could help it. Not if I could help it. I have been so happy my 8 years here in Malaysia. Now I understand, here I'm telling you about how wonderful it is here, but the government has made the visa issue much more difficult. But I actually think they're working on that, and I think we might see some good news in the near future. Fingers crossed. So hopefully when that happens, it will open up Malaysia to a lot more people than it does right now. Honestly, I've been so happy here, and I just don't think I ever want to leave. And I have made so many wonderful friends here, both expats and locals. So for now, I'm going to stay put right here in Malaysia, where I love. If you enjoyed this video today, please like and subscribe. I appreciate it so much. And click the notification bell too. That way you won't miss any of my new videos. I'm slowly creeping up on 10,000 subscribers, and hopefully that will happen before my channel is a year old, which is in July. I hope you enjoyed this, and it's not like I want to bash the U.S. I love the U.S. It's my home country, but there's so many problems with it now, I just don't see ever returning. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.